We got a special guest with us tonight. Tatiana Obey is in the building. She's here to talk about Sister Sci-Fi. I'm looking forward to this. What's going on, Tatiana?
Hello.
I want to give you what I want to do right now is give you the proper flowers because and this is just one of them. So, what's going on?
Oh, it's all good. Glad to be here to talk about what I got going on because the hardest thing about being an indie author is letting people know about you.
That.
So yeah, my name is Tatiana. Last name is OB, even though it's spelled Obey. It's a little kind of confusing. But I write badass characters slaying dragons, so I'm firmly very much in the fantasy genre. I grew up on fantasy, I grew up on anime, and that is what I want to see. I want to see more Black women specifically slaying dragons and getting they dues. So that is what I'm here to write.
I'm glad you said that because this project you have, Sister Sci-Fi, and I'll bring that up in a second, is something much needed. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
What is this book about? Because I was looking over your site and I'm like, oh, it's not the only one, and I love it. Here it is, Sister Samurai.
Yes, Sister Samurai is a Champloo novella. So if anyone knows what Champloo means, it's from Samurai Champloo. It's from the Okinawan word to mix up. So it is a fusion of Japanese and Black culture, and it kind of goes off of that. Kind of those themes and that genre that kind of started in the 90s with Afro Samurai and Samurai Champloo and even a little bit of the Boondocks in there. So I just really influential to me growing up. And the book
just stole my whole heart just right there.
And the book, Sister Samurai, so it follows, it's about a Black woman samurai, and she is the last of her clan. It follows her throughout her day. So she's out running errands. She's hitting up her favorite ramen spots. And, there's just things go awry. There's demons, there's warlords. They just get in her way. She's just trying to mind her business and get home. But luckily, she has her trusty katana Wakasashi with her, and they are named Fuck Around and Find Out. So they about to find out.
Let's go.
Oh my God, I'm sold. So obviously you already told your inspiration, Samurai Champloo, the Boondocks, Afro Samurai. When did you start this?
I've had it as an idea in my head for a bit, like it was kind of growing for a bit, but I didn't actually start sitting down and writing it until probably about 2023, January 2023. So about last year. So I wrote it and published it all within a year because it came out later that November.
She is fast too.
I mean, it's a novella. It is short, but sometimes a lot of people ain't got a lot of attention span. And the length of this novel, because as y'all know, you might know, Afro Samurai was a mini series, so it's not a very long anime that goes on and on and on. So kind of just to honor that pacing and honor that length, it does feel like a TV episode when you're reading it. Like it does feel like a full episode. But yeah, like I grew up on anime, and so, like I grew up on anime. I came home watching Inuyasha, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam, like all the works, like
the good ones.
All the good ones. Probably some bad ones too in there. But and I think when I was younger, I didn't really understand or what anime really was. You just know that this is different. Like it's not the white folks cartoons. It's different. But at the same time, you also didn't really see a lot of us in these shows.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, and I think the first time I had seen a Black character, to be honest, was just me, was probably Jet in Cowboy Bebop, because he had a Black voice actor. So I heard a Black man, and I'm like, oh, that's just a light-skinned Black man. But when the cast, like when they started casting and stuff, and they, because they were talking about it a couple of years before the Netflix show, and they started casting, everyone was talking about all these white actors. I was like, what are they talking about? I don't understand. Like, is it just me? Was it just me?
Yeah.
But I think Afro Samurai was the first anime that I had seen where it's an unambiguous, unapologetic black main character, and he out here just killing dudes, and I'm just like, oh, this is cool. This
I
is
think
this is it.
the selling point for Afro Samurai was not just it was an anime and it had the starring as a black person, but that black person was voiced by Sam Jackson. So it
Yes,
was just like, oh, you just got the best of both worlds. You ain't gonna have no choice but to watch and enjoy this one.
yes, he's out here voicing two characters.
Right.
Oh, it was, yeah, it's like it still like sticks in my memory. But one of the things about the anime is being a black girl nerd growing up, there wasn't a lot of, this was the show, but where were the black women in it? Like there was like one, I think later on in Resurrections, she
Yeah.
had like one line, nothing to do with the plot. And so I'm just like, I did. I'm pretty sure I held a grudge about that for like 10, 15 years.
Wow.
So I was holding on to that grudge for this moment. I'm like, you know what? I think it's time. Because sometimes you have to wait for the moment. And I'm like, okay, I got it now. Because at this point I published two other books, and they're more fantasy heavy. So if you're like more into Game of Thrones and stuff like that, those are those books. But this was very
You're
specifically
speaking to the choir. Yeah. You're preaching.
And so at that time I was like, okay, I know I can write action scenes. I know I can write characters. Like I love anime. I know my samurai media. And I'd also studied Japanese for 4 years. I've lived in Asia, studied abroad in Asia. I'm like, okay, all right, if anyone can do this, it's gonna have to be me, because I would be pissed if someone else did it and they did it wrong. So I'm like, okay.
See, this is how you brag without bragging, y'all. This is how you brag without
She's
bragging.
definitely immersed, that's for sure.
I mean, that's what makes X-Men so good, because you can tell it's written by someone who cares. And
Right.
that's what I wanted.
That part.
That's what I wanted. I wanted a black lady samurai, and I wanted it to be done right. So yes, her sword took a name, fuck around and find out. Like there is one part in the book where it's just her and a whole army, and she cuts all of them niggas down. All of them. And that's it. That's all I wanted. That is all I wanted. And I'm like, you know what? It's not out there, so I guess I'm gonna have to do it myself.
I mean, and I'm glad. See, this is what I love about doing this type of stuff and having this platform, because we get to speak to women like you who just like, you know what, I need to step out basically on faith, because if I need to have this story told, I have to be the one to tell it. And I think what happens now is it's becoming more apparent in the blurred community that it's time for us to tell the stories we want to tell. Because we can't really count on anybody else to really come forth with it. And so, even with the two big houses, always, yes, we have Storm, we have Bishop, we have John Stewart, we have all these, we have Vixen, we have a ton of black characters in both of these houses, but the constant conversation that comes up is, when is this person going to get their shine? When are they going to stop getting put to the backside, which is, once again, when we talk about it later, but X-Men 97 is a perfect example. Shout out to Miss Smith, Allison Smith, for voicing Storm. It's been it was amazing in the 90s. It's amazing now. But another conversation that comes up is, like you said, telling a story about a black woman. And I think the conversation that comes up now is it best to have people of that nationality, of that race, to tell that story respectfully from their point of view, or is it okay when someone who doesn't come from that nationality or doesn't come from that race or background tell that story, but once again, at least do the due diligence to discover that character and help them have that character have those traits. What do you think about those?
I can kind of come from my experience specifically in publishing, because as you know, there's kind of the trad route and there's the indie route. And, a lot of people think that indie authors, they're the ones that were rejected by trad. That's not entirely true. I specifically chose indie because I know the stories that I wanted to tell, trad would not be interested or even would not know how to market it. And so like there is like, and because I'm in this space, because I'm in this indie space, in Trad Pub, you'll only have space for maybe one author that season, you know, like one Black author that season, or they're competing against each other to for marketing dollars. There's competition between their spaces. So in indie, you don't get that competition with spaces. So oftentimes you do see other indie authors writing different people of color, you know, trying to add diversity in it. And personally, I've seen it go wrong. Honestly, I think out of the media that I've consumed, when it's written by a white author of a different, and they're trying to write a different nationality, I would probably say 70% get it wrong, and maybe like a small 30% do their due diligence. But there is nothing like us telling our own stories. Like there are certain narratives that they shouldn't be able to touch. Like they shouldn't be able to, you know, like it, like I don't even think they can conceive of it, because this book has been out since maybe November. And let me tell you, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this book. And I can't control who pick up the book. There, you know, like there are some people who pick up the book. But I, in my, in the dedication of the beginning of the book, it says, "To my fam, welcome home. To everybody else, you are a guest in this house, mind your manners."
Love it. Let's go.
I mean, you know, people who are trying to critique it, there are some things they're not going to catch. There are some things that, you know, is for us. Like I specifically wrote this for us and to tell our story and to tell our narrative. You know, it's also in big conversation with Afro Samurai, you know, to have the men sidelined. You know, this is us. And you know, I don't want to spoil the book. But even in the small things I did. So for example, in Afro Samurai, you have the #1 headband, right? And the #1 headband, I hope this audience knows a little bit about it. But you are his daddy dies at the beginning. This is not a spoiler. It happens in like the first episode, and he has to compete for the #1 headband so he can get the person who didn't kill his daddy. But I was very intentional in this book in saying, like, how would this story look for us? You know, how would what would the headband, our symbol of the headband, look like? So for example, I have the Sistah Samurai headband, and this is the Sistah Samurai headband to bring us together. Like this is our formation. This is us, you know, together, instead of a headband that divides us. So even just really playing on like those different things. And I can't see someone who don't get it coming in and like, nah, fam, nah.
I like this whole vibe. Oh God, I love this whole vibe. Whoopty, question?
Yeah. I was taking a look at your website, and you seem to love and cherish and honor badass Black women. And I was wondering, are you drawing inspiration for where you want to see, how you want to see us, or are there actual badass Black women in your life that you draw from for your inspiration?
Oh, 100%. Like there is quite a bit of my mama in Sistah Samurai. And one of the things is I definitely wanted to capture kind of just the everyday folk around me who are my heroes. And, you know, that's my mom, my aunt, my grandma. Like I want to see them slaying demons. I want to see them out. So the main character in the book is like she's 40 years old. She is tired. You know, and to me it's a metaphor, and it shows like the way I see my mom, you know, the way she protected us every day, the way she made it home every day and did what she had to do. And I'm just like, I don't understand. I see this every day. Why is it not in our fiction?
Facts.
We need that. Lainey.
So my question that I had from the beginning before you actually answered it, because I was gonna say, well, half of it, because one was what made you fall in love with fantasy, but I feel like you answered that. But just in case if it wasn't like Afro Samurai, like then that would be a part of it. And how is that manifested in your work?
I think it definitely has had an effect on my storytelling, and I just grew up very drawn to it. Even like my mom, she was a big Lord of the Rings fan, and my dad, he was a big kung fu action fan. But even sometimes when like parents try to get their kids into things, and you can kind of tell when a kid gets checked out and they're not into it. But like I was into it. Like it's inspired me to take several martial arts. So like I have done martial arts, and I think just in regards to like how it's inspired me, my storytelling, like I grew up on it. And like, I know one of my favorite animes is, for example, like Rurouni Kenshin or Cowboy Bebop, and like kind of just that melancholic tone, like that's definitely in Sister Samurai. Or for example, in my previous books, the fantasy books, again, I was inspired. I was like, man, I ain't seen no female rivals. I really want female rivals, because like you have Goku versus Vegeta, Sasuke versus, Naruto, Bakugo versus Midoriya. Where are my female rivals? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write it. So that inspired my whole first, the whole first book.
I love this.
So it definitely like inspires how I approach writing.
I do actually have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
As you should.
If based on what you just said, if there was a famous woman in fiction that you can get a hold of and change in your mode, who would you get, and how would you execute that?
Man, I ain't even thought about this question before. Like as Chris Fury has said, like even there's a lot of women in comic books that haven't gotten their due. I would love to get big enough to tackle, like to write for some of those women. But yeah. I can't think of anything specific right now. I'm gonna come back to it.
Okay. So
great, Lainey. You shorted or circuited her. We didn't even got a chance to chat with her.
I'm gonna give her. I'll give her a chance. I'll give her a chance to recover.
I'm always the quiet one on the questions, but like,
oh no, you're the dangerous one. Nah, see, see.
She's been talking to Lady Mandalore before the show.
Right, yo, they've been concerned. It's like, girl, we need to throw a question at her.
So before I get to the guys, let me tell you what the accolades that Sister Samurai has already attained. 2023 Indie Fantasy Fun Service Grant recipient, #1 Amazon new release, 2023 Indie Inc. Award finalist for Black representation, prettiest book interior, this book made me hungry/thirsty, and 2024 Indieverse Award nominee for Best Novella. You, my dear, are already putting them to shame. So yeah, are we looking to get this book? Oh, you better believe it.
Oh, I am.
Oh,
okay. Got it in the cart.
I'm on the site right now. Ooh.
You're right. I'm on the site right now trying to figure out.
We support our people over here.
Hardcover is very popular and it's very pretty.
It is. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.